My name is Tannatt Nash and I'm from Faultless Fitness Limited. I noticed there was a gap in the market in Hereford, which is where I'm from. There was a lot of training or facilities for bodybuilders or people interested in that sort of line of work. And then there was CrossFit gyms, and there didn't seem to be much for people who needed to have access to facilities for health reasons, so your clinical patients. And there wasn't also much for like youth progression programs and athletes. So I looked to try and fill that void, really. I went from being 13.5 stone when I was younger. I was about 16, I was 13.5 stone. I suddenly got a goal, and at the time I was quite disenchanted with life. And then through having that goal and getting my weight down and progressing, I found that had a knock-on effect on everything else. And I found that it's inspired me to push myself forward in life. Right now, we're at a stage where we've just launched. We're just coming up to the end of our first quarter. We have the lab set up. We've got a couple of really expensive pieces of equipment coming down this week, which I'm quite excited about. And we've got a client base which is sustaining us. We are currently looking at developing our youth progression program for the local area. So really we want to sort of start taking on young athletes and promoting them and pushing them through into like the GB stage. On the other flip side of that, the services that we offer to sort of the clinical side, we've got some people that have come in who were 6 months ago you wouldn't recognise. You know, they were very much psychologically, they were different people, and physically. When you think of fitness, you look at it from sort of an aesthetic point of view, but these people came and they were sort of like just about standing. You know, they'd gone through some form of emotional turmoil or had some form of physiological condition like heart attack or something, and they were at that stage where they realised like if they didn't do something, then they weren't going to be around for much longer. And so we were able to provide them with a safe place, really, where they're not going to be judged by other people. And a lot of the barriers to entry that are in bigger facilities don't exist because we have like a strict no ego policy. The first one is kind of like you get a couple of pinch yourself moments. Like this is purely egotistical now, but when you stand inside your lab or office or other space, and you kind of look and you go, how have I done this? I walk into my lab sometimes, I'm kind of like, how has this happened? In 3 months, I've gone from lots of paper and pens everywhere and banks and all this sort of funding kind of stuff, and now I'm suddenly stood in a physical building, and I've got all this expensive kit that I could never have dreamed of having sort of less than 6 months ago. And there's that kind of fulfillment. But then when you realise, and this is the major one, when you realise that what you're doing is a bit bigger than money, when it's not about income, it's not about turnover, and you look and you see that your clients, the service that you're offering is helping people, for me that's the big one. That's fulfilling. You know, you sit there and you go, I'm doing something worthwhile here, I'm helping people. The best support that I had was from an early investor. Like when I was just starting to, sort of 3 years ago, when I was just starting to put the idea together. The support that I've got from my financial director as well, like every sort of mountain that I've hit, every time you hit a wall, he's been there to kind of like, we've bounced stuff off, talked and developed. And so like, get someone that you can bounce ideas off. That's the best thing, the support-wise, that I can say is get someone who's there. They're not going to be a yes man. They're not going to tell you you're mad and put you down, because there are those people around, and it does stunt the growth of your business when you're having to worry about your confidence. That's who he's used to dealing with 6, 7 figures, and then I'm sort of sat here like as a startup, and he knows how to deal with stuff. And when we hit a snag, usually his experience and my passion will like drive us straight through whatever it is that's blocking that road. Always interview is the first one. Never hire someone for a favour or because you feel sorry for them. Make sure that the person that's joining the team has similar ideas or understandings as you, because if you're constantly in conflict about how to do something, especially when it comes to fitness, which is such a controversial thing, if you're having to constantly fight with your PTs or your staff to get them on board, it's a nightmare. Whereas if you're on the same page in the first place, everything just runs so much smoother. And that's really like the best advice I could give with regards to that.